simply click on one of these fields and manually input a scale of, say, 50%. All right, since this link is turned on, it does that uniformly between the X value and the Y value. And we'll talk about when it would be appropriate to scale it non-uniformly. Right, now I can move this scale by clicking and dragging, by manually inputting a value into that field, or I can come up over into my workspace and click on the asset and actually start to drag it around. Now, now that we've kind of talked about the position, scale, rotation, opacity, let's talk about the anchor point right here. If you look right in the center of this selected object, you'll actually see these little crosshairs. That is called the anchor point. It is around the anchor point that the object scales or rotates, or the position moves, etc. If we actually move that anchor point, or rather the artwork in relationship to the anchor point, and then we come around and start rotating it, you'll see that the object continues to rotate around that point, although the position of that point has changed in relationship to the object. For this particular demo, I would like to see you position that anchor point approximately at the bottom of the ball, grab the ball, and reposition it at a high point on your timeline. Or sorry, not in your timeline, but in your screen composition. Now, something else that I want to point out is if you double-click accidentally on that asset in either the workspace or down here in the timeline, what it's going to do is it's going to open up a new tab over here in your workspace. This is a tab that it's a preview tab and allows you to kind of see a close-up of your object. So I am simply going to close this and go back to the composition window. Okay, now that I have the asset in a position that I'm happy with, I am going to go ahead and start setting keyframes, which will record the location, the rotation, the scale, etc. of that asset or of that object at that particular point on the timeline. Now, coming back down to our timeline, you can see that it has a duration of 10 full seconds. Now, that's a little excessive for what we want. So I can come down here to this slider immediately below the timeline, and I can actually use it to zoom in on a very specific portion of my timeline itself. So I'm just going to scale that over to the right so that we can focus entirely on the first second of this animation. So I'll make sure that I have my little timeline indicator slid over so that it's at the 0, 0 position. And now I'm going to go ahead and hit the stopwatch icon